Our next segment is bringing together financial architects to dissect West Africa's macroeconomic trajectory, particularly looking at Ghana. Our moderator has worked at the highest echelons of global finance. He went to school at St. Augustine's in Ghana. Big up all the St. Augustine's. I know there's very, very proud people, very, very proud people. He also represented the UK in triple jump as an athlete, and he now currently serves in the US as acting chief executive officer for Fannie Mae in the US, one of the largest housing financial institutions and a Fortune 25 company. Yes, a Ghanaian is an acting head of that. Just so you know, a little bit of context, the company manages and guarantees a mortgage portfolio of approximately, wait for it, $4.3 trillion. It's a lot of pressure, and that's all he managed. And he's making it one of the largest financial institutions in the world by assets. He's a philanthropist. He's done amazing work raising millions for the Focus Hospital in Ghana, which deals with complex spine, and also does a lot of work to drive proper healthcare delivery in Ghana. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Peter Akwaboah. And please welcome two architects of finance in their own right, two trailblazers who will join in. Can we have the chairs up on here? The chairs up here. Can someone please bring the chairs up here? Thank you very much. Amazing, amazing, amazing. We also have our two panelists, two amazing trailblazers in the world of finance. Please welcome to the stage Honorable Cassiel Forson, the Finance Minister of Ghana. Center. And the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Pandit Asiama. Asiama, let me pronounce it, Asiama. The English confused me, I'm sorry. Asiama. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana. And given the time, I am going to say all protocols observed. We're going to go straight into the agenda. And of course, I welcome all of you because it is honestly a privilege and honor to be here. A few months ago, I was back in the UK on a business, and I happened with my brother, who's obviously organizing some of this, Paul. I happened to go to the High Commissioner's office, and you know, when you have the High Commissioner, Madam Zita Benson, and my brother saying to me, you need to come back to moderate this panel, it is hard to say no. So despite all the busy schedule, I decided that I was going to come. So I arrived yesterday. I managed to listen to such an engaging town hall online, and I think you did a fantastic job. So I'm going to go straight into the questions, and I welcome, obviously, Honorable Minister and Governor as well. But before I go in there, I just want to say one key story for my own story, because I see Ghana changing. And when I know Ghana is changing is because back in the days, a few years ago, I decided to buy a car to Ghana, which because I only go there maybe 4 or 5 times a year, I decided that I was going to buy something with a big engine. And those of you who are probably in the UK, if you buy any car with a 5.7 liter engine, nobody drives it. So that was a decision I made, because when I leave it in Ghana, hardly anyone drives it. Even my friends who take it in the morning, they'll come back and say, I took your car back. But to my surprise, last week, my driver texts me and says, boss, is it okay to take the car to Koforidua and back? That shows you Ghana is changing, because if you can decide to buy it. Okay, so it is changing. Just if my driver can do that, you know things are moving in the right direction. So I'm going to go straight into the questions and start with you, probably the Governor. I'm going to ask the hardest questions first, and then we'll go into the easy ones. So first of all, what song gets the party going for you?
What song? Several of them. But there's this lady I really like to listen to, Diana Hamilton, right? Okay. I enjoy her songs. So any of them, I like to listen to her early morning before I start my day.
Excellent. Honorable Minister. And no, please don't say Kakarika.
I am. Yeah. Thank you. I'm not a song person. I enjoy to work.
So the title of the song was I Enjoy to Work. Okay, so the next question for you is, I'll start with Honorable Minister. Just give me a sense around what do you do from the morning? How does your day start for you?
Thank you very much. 6 a.m. My morning starts at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. I get to work early morning, latest 6:30, because I try to catch up meeting colleague ministers before 8:30. So at least I will have 2 hours of work with colleague ministers before I start my official function at the ministry. And I leave normally at 7:30 p.m. So on a normal day, I make it at least 13-hour shift.
13-hour shift, that's excellent. That's good. What about you, Governor?
Yes, so my day also starts at 6 in the morning. And the very first thing I do is to check what the President of the U.S. has said and did not say the day before. And then, of course, what is happening to oil prices, what is happening to gold prices. If it looks good, then I know I'll have a good day. So that's how I start my day each day.
That's great. Okay, then, let's go. So let's go into your leadership style. So just give us a sense around how you run the institution, Bank of Ghana. Let's give me a sense around your leadership style.
So one of the new things we brought on board from last year when we got in was to adopt a consultative approach. We decided to demystify the central bank. And maybe the reason I adopted that style was, I went off the central bank for about 8 years doing other things. And during that period, I really listened. I listened to the public discourse. I heard the criticisms against the central bank. And so when I got back in there, it sort of told me what to do. I listened more. You can ask Mr. Gusitano. You can ask various groups. We bring them over. And for me, the exciting thing is how you are able to identify an appropriate solution after listening to people. I remember recently we returned from the IMF, and I kept seeing on social media the central bank was being criticized by some of these young people, the influencers, the bloggers. They receive some income from Facebook and the likes. But suddenly, those incomes were no longer coming in. And there was a lot of agitation on social media. So my attention was drawn. And I said, please call them in. So they called them in, very young, about 12, 13 of them. And we sat down to try and understand the problem. In the end, we were able to identify. And for me, I was happy that we were able to solve the problem. Now they are receiving their incomes, without struggle. Yes, go ahead and clap. I enjoy it. And we meet other groups, Guta, for example. They've come over several times. You name it. I tell them, when you have a problem, it's a joint solution. I have the same interest as you have. And I think that has been working, the consultative approach to policy making. I would say that is what is making a difference for us.
Excellent. Thank you so much. An active listener, and I actually can testify to that, because when I met you, I could just detect that you were an active listener. So thank you for that. What about you, Ordinary Minister?
I get very much involved in what we do at the Ministry of Finance, from the technical details to policy making. And I try to involve either budgeting, tax policy, public debt management, almost everything. I get very much involved because of the gravity of the situation we were in. You needed to ensure that policy actually begins from the technicality to where implementation actually happens. And so from day one, and let me put it this way, I've had the privilege to work at the Ministry of Finance before as a deputy minister. And I was there from 2013 to 2016 at my young age. I was 34 years at the time, and my minister then actually encouraged me to get involved. And so I really got involved at the time. So going back to the ministry, it was very easy for me to get involved. So I do not lord it over the technical people that I'm a minister, so they should take decisions and bring it to me. And so gradually it has become the culture, and the ministry staff believes that this is not your normal minister who you can just bring a document and that becomes final. They know that I will drill down to the minutest of the number and obviously question the rationale behind it. And gradually it's resonating, and it is what is actually doing the trick at the Ministry of Finance.
Asiama, technical leader. I like that. So, Governor, now let's pivot back to Ghana, our motherland. We know that we are seeing a lot of stability in Ghana. But let's just get back to how did it all begin, and what was the turning point that you saw that we are moving in the right place? And I would then come to Honorary Minister as well.
Right. So when we got in yesterday, remember, we didn't just get in. We had done a lot of work. Me and the minister, we've been doing a lot of work together. We understand each other. Many of the issues that we came to meet, we had already analyzed. We had developed solutions. And so immediately, you remember, we had to tighten monetary policy quickly. Why? Because there were some policy missteps the year before. And so inflation was still high. The exchange rate was still very volatile when we came in. So much liquidity had been injected since 2022. I always use the example of a patient who has been given a lot of blood transfusion. If it's in excess, no matter the treatment, the patient is not going to recover. And so we spent last year draining that excess blood. No wonder you saw our financials, how much it costed us. But it was a necessary cost. You know, we call it a reset cost. And we believe that based on where we are now, we can tackle the real sector problems. We've brought about stability. Most of the costs that we incurred last year will not be repeated this year. But last year was the heavy lifting. We did a number of things. We looked at the interbank forest market, for example. A lot of new guidelines were issued. We looked at remittances. Before we came in, at the time we came in, there was a lot of offshoring going on. By offshoring, some of the companies located here who take your remittances, what they do is, instead of paying the pounds into the nostro accounts of a Ghanaian bank so that it enters our system, they rather arrange, they give you cedis back in Ghana. They rather arrange for somebody to give you the cedis in Ghana instantly. Yeah. But then the pound sterling or the dollars here, they keep it aside. So they turn themselves into FX dealers, whereas they are not licensed to do so. When they do that, the monies they take from you is not made available for us to use. So banks can, for example, use it to finance LCs, pay for imports and the likes. And so when we got in, we had to put in measures to compel all these people to pay in those flows so that the inflows come through. Because when they come through, it helps to stabilize the cedi. No wonder last year remittance inflows got as high as His Excellency has given the figure, nearly $8 billion US. Yes, go ahead and clap. It was nearly $8 billion US. Remember, that was about half the entire amount we got from foreign direct investment last year. And so for us at the central bank, we decided to look at our diaspora differently. These are part of the investors we are looking for. It's not just a foreign investor, but the diaspora population in the US, in the UK. These are potential investors that we have to, reach out to. And remember, Peter, I met you in the US. We had that program there dubbed Remit to Invest. Yes. The idea is that entire $8 billion that came last year, it probably went into funerals, went into paying school fees, and other social, demands. Can we get about half of that also going into investment? So I called the banks, I called the CEOs of the banks to develop products. So as we speak, they are working on that, such that our diaspora brothers and sisters can invest directly from here. They don't have to go through any family member. They can manage their own, investments. On our part, we looked at, one of the things we came to meet was they have this gold coin that some people have purchased, physically.
Yeah.
So we said, why don't we tokenize it? When we tokenize it with your little sums, anywhere you are, you can invest, you can buy these. So as I speak, we are in that process to tokenize our gold, and all that is meant to diversify the investment opportunities so the diaspora can participate, directly.
That's good.
The banks are working on some of those products as well. Yeah. So at the right time, there will be, clarity on what to do. But I think the diaspora population must be taken seriously, and we at the Central Bank are doing just that.
Thank you. So, before I go to Honorary Minister, what has been one of the hardest decisions you've had to take with this whole stability and transformation going on?
Hardest decision, we take it every day. We take it every day.
I just need one.
and maybe before I go to the one, the job of a central banker, we are like a soccer referee. Unfortunately, you might be my relative, but if I have to show you a red card, I have to do what I have to do. And so many a time we take decisions that don't make you popular. However, it's in the interest of the country. I see that all the time. But it's the nature of the job.
That's good.
But I think the most difficult one was the first MPC that I did. Coming in just after being announced as the new governor. You want to be a bit populist, right? Everybody will want to be liked. So I was looking forward, to sort of have my MPC go down as somebody who was coming to be, but then after doing the analysis, we saw we needed to hike. We needed to just hike. But I had the support from my colleagues, and we did that. That single action saved us. So you see, no wonder after that hike, the easing cycle just started all the way until end of last year. The easing cycle would have continued, but for the Middle East crisis. And that is the elephant in the room currently. We do hope that the Middle East crisis will be solved anytime soon, and then we'll continue that easing, and get to where we want to get to.
Yeah, and by MPC, you don't mean member of parliament, but you mean monetary policy.
Monetary policy committee,
Yes.
monetary policy committee meetings.
Okay.
Yes.
Honorary Minister, same thing, Ghana, stability. What was a turning point for you on a physical side? And then, of course, what the hardest decision you've had to take?
I think for us, we got in January. I was appointed in January, and we had to prepare our first budget. So the first budget introduced 22 amendments to existing laws and introduced new laws, 22 in number. This is to ensure, one, that we take control of public expenditure. And so across the economy, we've now taken control of public expenditure. Not only central government, but general government. Because we realized that in the last 10 years, public debt has been increasing on account of not only government expenditure, but also stock flow adjustment. Stock flow adjustment, simple put, is the state-owned enterprises transferring their debt into the central government, about 2% of GDP. In fact, actual number is 2.5% of GDP. And so we introduced the commitment authorization, that yes, you can be a state-owned enterprise, but we need to approve the kind of expenditure and the kind of commitment, just to make sure that that 2.5% of GDP of additional debt every year does not reoccur going into the future. So for now, we've stopped it. Then number two, we need to ensure that our own ministries stay according to the budget. And so the commitment authorization actually has assisted the government to take charge of expenditure. In fact, we set expenditure at the time 2025, we set it to 2023 levels, nominal, not real, nominal. To that extent, we were able to reduce expenditure from primary expenditure from 18.7% of GDP to 13.5% of GDP. 1 year. So you could see that expenditure cut in 1 year was in excess of 5%. But this did not affect growth. The non-oil GDP growth actually grew from 6.1 to 7.6% in 1 year, even though we reduced expenditure by 5% of GDP in 1 year. Overall, what we've seen is that by cutting expenditure, we have actually assisted the central bank to be able to control inflation. And it was important from that stand. Then secondly, we needed to ensure that we capture our gold to control the gold export. And so we introduced what we call the gold board. And the gold board was to ensure that gold that was hitherto leaving the country through smuggling and the country was not benefiting from the value chain is actually stopped. And so what we did was the introduction of the gold board alone, once calendar year, we were able to buy gold up to 14 billion United States dollars. And that 14 billion assisted the central bank to be able to build reserves. Today, the central bank has a very healthy reserve position. And this year, we expect to buy gold at least 20 billion United States dollars. That will assist. And so clearly, that is what has actually accounted for the healthy reserves position and the central bank having the firepower to stabilize the currency. In 1 calendar year, our currency actually appreciated by 40.7%, 1 single year. This is largely because we've taken charge of our gold. Not only that, we also introduced the sliding scale so that we can capture the economic rent coming from the gold. The World Bank estimated that Ghana loses an average of 20 to 25% in economic rent. What we needed to do is to introduce the sliding scale since we did not have a windfall tax. That is in place, and the country is benefiting from that. Again, it was important that we rationalize our taxes and to ensure that at the minimum, Ghana get the value of what we are supposed to get. In fact, it has been the most difficult one. Let me put it this way. First, we had identified some form of nuisance taxes that they had to go. And it was the president's campaign promise. So as minister, first thing I need to go is such like e-levy and all. So yes, when the president asks me, are we able to remove it? I have to say yes. We'll remove them, but we'll have to make sure that we don't lose revenue for national development. So we remove all of this nuisance tax, betting tax, and all of that. At the same time, we needed to ensure that we grow revenue. 1 year, we've been able to move tax to GDP from 12.3% to now 13.2% and going to 14% of GDP this year. This is because we first decided to rationalize VAT. And so VAT was actually distorted, and we needed to remove the distortion because we noticed that our VAT, for example, had embedded in it sales tax at the same time VAT. It's never done anywhere in the world. So we needed to rationalize it and remove the sales tax element of it and introduce the VAT as it is. It is working well. Now we are about to introduce what we call electronic point of sale devices. We expect to implement it in July. And that, I believe, will be a game changer for VAT. I believe that that will increase our VAT by a minimum of 20%. And so the pilot is almost done, and we're about rolling it out. I know there will be some few resistance, but I'm ready to stem it and make sure it will happen.
No wonder he has no time to listen to music.
But finally, our customs revenue was a big challenge. International trade taxes was a major challenge to us. In the past, customs officers had the discretion to pick and choose the values they give. Today, we've taken the discretion from them, and we've given the discretion to artificial intelligence, AI. So AI is the one that will ensure that those values conforms to international standards and all. And that alone, every single day, I see the customs revenue going up by a minimum of 3 million United States dollars every single day. Yeah. And so we see that the AI alone is increasing our customs revenue by a minimum of $1 billion United States dollars this year. That is a game changer. And on the back of that, we've removed all these taxes, but it is not actually hurting the tax revenue. I believe with implementation of the VAT, at the minimum, we will be able to hit our target of 15% of GDP tax revenue by the end of 2026 this year. That should be a good thing. The difficult decision for me is looking at your friends and your colleagues in cabinet and telling them that it can't work.
Yes.
But I do it smiling. And I know every minister wants to obviously ensure that their sector receives its fair share. But if the money is not there, you can't spend. And I try to tell them that I don't have it. And so they should bear with me. Difficult times are here with us. But going into the future, things will change. And always in every government, someone must be the one to take the hard decision. It shouldn't be the president. Yes. And I've pledged that I will be that person to take the hard
decision. So he's definitely taking the hard decisions based on numbers. And they say numbers don't lie, people do. Okay, so I'm going to take questions from the audience, maybe one or two. Not yet, please. The mic will go around, but I will ask one question and I'll come back to the audience. So if we can start getting the mics ready. So let's go into investors. How do you think investors misunderstand Ghana? I'm curious to understand, what would be one thing or two things that you think they understand about the Ghana economy right now?
Well, I can understand if investors misunderstand us. If you look at where we came from in 2022, it was a real watershed. The domestic debt exchange program, the haircuts, as they say, once bitten, twice shy. So I can understand some hesitation. But from last year, a lot of work has been done, lots of work. We have changed legislation. The minister has spoken about it. You look at the Central Bank Act, for example. Some of the things that happened in 2022 can no longer happen now. Talking about excessive central bank financing. As you know, that led to part of the problem. That cannot happen anymore. The minister, he mentioned about the new legislation is introduced, the fiscal rules, you name them. So we want to engage the investors and tell them, look, we are building back better. What happened in the past belongs to the past. His Excellency has mentioned that Ghana is ready. We believe now we are ready. The stability is real. But for the Middle East crisis that is ongoing, probably by now interest rates would have been below the 10% I'm praying for. It was just the Middle East crisis that sort of introduced a pause. So once that problem gets resolved, we'll see that trend continue. Now, there are a lot of good things to come. In my mind, I'm looking at an international financial services center, in Accra. I mean, think about it. The whole of Africa, there's none. You go to the Emirates, each of them has an international financial services center. So why not Ghana? We have all it takes. And so in my mind, maybe in the next 2 years, 3 years, we can do that. Think about it. A Singapore of Africa. Ghana is the financial center. So in simple terms, we are ready for investment. But for me, beyond that, I want to see more diaspora people like yourself, right? We have the people, we have the capital. Come home and invest. Then the other investors can follow. Yeah. Thank you.
I think for investors, I can appreciate their pain and what they went through in 2022. Mm-hmm. 2022 was a very difficult year, and we have to admit that Ghana got it wrong at the time. But most importantly, we have internalized the crisis of 2022, and we've all resolved as politicians and policymakers never to do things that will take us back to where we were in 2022. I think I've been a member of parliament for 18 years. I had the privilege to even serve as a minority leader at some point. If there's something that I see in parliament among the political group, I see clearly the willingness never to take Ghana back to where we were in 2022. And so I want to use this opportunity to assure investors that Ghana will never get back to where we were in those days. We will sustain the gains. The gains will be sustained. We've put in place measures and laws to ensure that going into the future, Ghana will not see inflation at 54%. We'll never default on the repayment of our debt, be it domestic or external debt, and we'll do what it takes to sustain the gains and to attract investment into the country. I mean, imagine bringing, let's say, £1 million into a country to invest, and the currency depreciate one day by 20%, 30%. When you are repatriating those investments, what happens? You lose your income. Today, we found a way to ensure that we capture our gold. The central bank is building reserves up to 15 months of import cover. And this is the kind of reserves you see in the Middle East, among the Asian tigers, seeing 12, 13 months of import cover. Ghana is going to have 15 months of import cover. That is enough to protect the currency. That is enough to cushion the currency for at least 2 decades, because we are talking of reserves. And so be assured that we are open for investment. Our tax policies are very transparent, regulation works, and the country is ready to attract investment. And so if you decide to come into the country, the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Ghana, and other sectors, we are all ready to welcome you. And be assured that we'll work for your businesses to survive and where possible, repatriate your profit to your country or reinvest those profits that you make in Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So look, I know I have to wrap up, but if you bear with me, let me just take 2 questions, please. I'm going to start with the lady in the middle. Yeah.
Which lady?
In the middle.
Okay, so
just here. Yeah.
All right, so I have a first question for the governor. I am Christian Yale, TV3. I'm here.
Wait.
I'm here.
No,
The lady first?
No, yes, please.
Okay.
Bear with me. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Minister and the Governor, my name is Dr. Christina Yan Zhang. I co-chair a task group at the United Nations using AI for people and planet. So my question for you is, we know that small, medium-sized enterprise occupies 92% of all business in Ghana and 80% GDPs and 70% of manufacturing jobs. So my question for you is, what can we do to support SME financing using emerging technology? Consider the government is currently drafting the emerging technology bill to make financing for SME smarter, faster, and easier, so that actually we can become the first Wakanda country in Africa and lead major constructions and prosperities for the whole continent moving forward. Thank you.
So, SME and technology. I'm going to only pick one of them to answer. So there was 2. Yes.
Thank you. And the governor will have to speak to this. But let me say that the banks needs to do more than what they are doing today. Today, the banks in Ghana are lending approximately 11% to the of GDP to the private sector. If you are to compare that to our peers, like Nigeria and other countries, they are doing double digit, like 20%, 30% of GDP. And so clearly you can see that the banks are not actually lending to the private sector, and most particularly the SMEs. This is obviously because of the boom and bust cycle that we've seen in the past, and also government expenditure. Some of the banks find it more attractive to lend to government at, say, 30% on a treasury bill than to lend to a private sector, maybe 35 or 40%. Today, we've successfully reduced the treasury bill rate to now 4.8% from the 30%. 91 days treasury bill then at the time was 30%. Today is 4.8. Yeah. And the government is not borrowing as much from the private sector. And so I've seen a trend where the banks are now moving to support the private sector and SMEs. Today, the banks are chasing individuals for loans and all. That is where we want to get to, because you can't have an economy where the banks only lend to government and government use the money for the purposes of government expenditure. It's beyond that. And so gradually what we've done, I've also seen in the past government agencies, we give the money to them. We borrow, for example, from the treasury bill market and give it to government agencies. They transfer it to commercial banks, and commercial banks end up lending this money back to the state. That has stopped because we operate strict TSA, Treasury Single Account. Yeah. So the money will be with the central bank. And when you need it, you go and take it. Don't let the central bank, the private sector, the banks bring the money back to us. Yeah. So these are some of the things we are doing. But I'm working with the central bank to ensure that gradually they introduce regulation and measures to compel some of these banks to lend to the SMEs. But since it's a matter of regulation, I will let the governor speak to it.
Yeah, and I'll let the governor speak, and I'm going to wrap up after that. I know I'm...
Yes, so, yes, it is true, just as the minister has said, in terms of the amount of credit that banks give to the private sector. Ghana lags behind when you consider it as a ratio of GDP. Our peer countries are doing 3 times, 4 times, 5 times what we are doing. So we need to do more. But you can understand, it all has to do with where we came from. The high interest environment, where banks were lending at 35%, 40% a year. If you lend money to anybody at such levels, certainly the person will default. And so banks were hesitant, and at the same time, government bills offered alternative, avenues. So that's why in the past that wasn't happening. Now, with the stability that has returned from last year, we've noticed a new trend. Private sector credit is beginning to recover. But what the banks are telling me is they are not able to find enough bankable projects. I engaged them a couple of weeks ago, and then I asked them, who has to create those for you? There should be a way to convert raw ideas into bankable projects. And so we're brainstorming together. We're saying, there's the Ghana Venture Capital, fund. Should we set up a unit there where we say, look, if you have any rough idea you want to turn into a business plan, just go there, they will help you to put it together. And then after that, you can approach a bank for financing. But fortunately, I spoke to IFC. IFC has something along that line, just to help people to convert those raw ideas into a form that a bank will be, happy to look at. So it is a general problem, not just for SMEs, but something really needs to be done, to shore up private sector credit. But one thing we are doing for the individual level, we are pushing ahead with digital credit. It should be possible for people to raise amounts on their phones. It should be possible for someone who wants to start a watche business and needs just 20,000 cedis to go on the phone and then raise that capital, manage it all by themselves. And so we are working on the technology side of things. Very soon that constraint will be addressed. So yes, it's a problem that we are aware of. It will go away. We just have to sustain the low interest rate, stable exchange rate environment. It's a new regime altogether. Our people are not used, to operating at this level. So we are looking forward to see the global shock go away, and then we'll return to these ways again. But certainly we'll do something about access to credit going forward.
Okay, thank you. Am I done, or should I carry on? One more question, okay. You are so persistent, so I'll let you ask this question. I've been spending 5 minutes watching you.
Yes, because I'm Christian Yale. I'm the parliamentary correspondent for TV3 Ghana.
Okay.
And this question is important to me because of all the issues we've had around cocoa. So I want to ask the governor, I know that cocoa is a national asset. You've announced that there's going to be at least a $1 billion, funding or cocoa bond or local bond, if I should put it that way, to be issued by the Ghana Cocoa Board. So my question simply goes as this. Can the Ghanaian banking sector handle such huge issuance, given all the regulatory hurdles? And tied to that, how is government thinking about it? And also lastly, are there going to be any regulatory support to make it a reality? Simple. Thank you.
So the issue of cocoa financing for Cocoa Board, I know there are plans to introduce some new regimes. The minister is working hard on that. But yesterday I had a discussion with them. They should be able to issue commercial paper. So instead of just going to borrow from a bank, because there's a limit to how much you can take from a bank. We link it to the amount of capital that the bank has. So if the amount, the ratio will go, above the regulatory levels, then that loan cannot happen. So there are constraints. But the good part is they can issue commercial paper. The question is, if it is secure, if the facility is well structured. We have over 100 billion in pension funds. So why do we struggle to raise 4 billion cedis when there's 100 billion sitting in pension funds? So I told them it's about structuring it well. Assigning those contracts in such a way that you take away, the risk that is inherent. That way, these funds can, patronize your commercial paper. So that issue should be addressed very soon, but it shouldn't be a sole dependence on the banks. We should use the capital market, right? Because the funds are there. Now that treasury bills have gone down, people are looking for where to place their investment. So it's all about structuring. And I'm working with Cocoa Board, together with the minister, to put together some commercial paper. I'm sure within the next 1 week or two, that problem will be addressed. Thank you.
So we have a little bit more time for some questions.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll carry on.
So thank you. The transaction advisor that we contracted to put together the Cocoa Board new issuance have just submitted their report. And I think we are ready to issue the paper anytime soon. It's going to be commercial paper. Non-residents will be invited to participate. And we are not solely relying on Ghanaian banks. We rely also on pension funds and also on non-resident investors. We'll issue it 3 tranches. Tranche 1 will be able to cover up to 2 months of purchases. Tranche 2 will cover another 3 months of purchases, and tranche 3 will cover the rest of the season. We have structured it in such a way that the receivables will go into an escrow arrangement, and we'll use the same receivables to repay those facilities. We have structured it again in a way that we'll retire it within a period of 8 months. So 8 months, the debt will not exist, and the following season will reissue it. The old syndication served Ghana well for at least 33 years. Even though it provided liquidity to the central bank, to the Ghana Cocoa Board to be able to buy cocoa, it denied the country from value addition. And so we believe that we need to depart from the old structuring. And so this new structure will mean that since the cocoa is being purchased by our own resources, domestic bonds, that the government of Ghana is working closely with the Cocoa Board, we'll be able to process a minimum of 50% of cocoa purchases locally. So that is in place, and we are ready to launch. I'll be going to Parliament after the President approves, and the Cabinet approves the new Cocoa Board bill to get a new Cocoa Board Act in place. I believe that will be done, give and take, by the end of June. And so Cocoa Board will not only get new financing, but it will be reformed completely. We want to ensure automatic pricing, just like we have in other countries where Cocoa Board will be able to buy cocoa beans from the farm gate at prices determined by international market. And the cocoa farmer will be guaranteed a minimum of 70% of whatever cocoa that they produce. And so the law is going to Parliament, and the structuring is going to be very special, and I'm sure investors will be willing to participate. So far, I've already seen signs. Investors across the world are calling to find out whether they can participate. And so when we go back, I will officially issue a statement to clarify the concerns that some of them may have, and maybe address the media to clarify that. So liquidity is in Ghana, and we'll be able to fund the cocoa purchases. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to ask only 2 more questions. So I'm going to ask this gentleman to ask the question. Wait for the mic to get to you. He's just standing. And then I'll come to the side. And then I'm done. Yes. Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, we are really very proud of you guys for what you are doing. It's quite refreshing when we hear what is going on in Ghana at the moment. Now, piggybacking on what you said with regards to mobilizing the resources of the diasporans, I've had the research. This one, I met the Ethiopian High Commissioner to the UK. I'm also sitting here with the GMPC Deputy Managing Director. And we're having a conversation. And for instance, he was telling me about the exploration that they need to do. And looking at the amount of monies that they need, I truly believe that we, the diasporans, have got the resources. Now, I've done research into this. If you look at it, we are just about 3 to 4 million, all the Ghanaians in diaspora. If you do the unofficial figures, that's almost close to 7 million. Just even 10% of that, investing about $2,000 per person a year, that's about $1.4 billion. Now, if you add the institutional investors, like my senior there, you add all the friends of Ghana. Ghana is already having a beautiful wave across the world where everybody is falling in love with Ghana. We can tap into that. We can easily raise 3 to 4 billion annually. Because we, the diasporans, we want to invest. Yes, a lot of us have got issues with individual investors. That's why a lot of time we are hardly sending the money back. But if the government can help to come up with a diaspora, I sent a proposal to your office, a diaspora bond, where we can easily buy into. Ethiopia did it, the Renaissance Dam. They raised 5 billion from their own people, no single borrowing from anywhere. And I think that this is the time that we need to do that. So based on what you're already doing, I would love that we have more conversations about it and we can explore it. Israel has done it, India has done it, Nigeria did it, even Canada is now doing it. So please, let's look at that. There's so much money on the table that we can mobilize from the individuals amongst ourselves, the people in the diaspora. We are ready to invest.
Thanks for your comment. I appreciate that. Okay. I'll move on. Sure. You want to respond, or shall I just... Okay.
Just a quick one. Okay. Maybe we will have to consider Jollof bond for infrastructure.
Yes. Okay. I think we're good. Let me ask. Yeah, one more. Oh, you can answer that.
No, that's a very useful suggestion. We are working on just that, But issuing a diaspora bond, that is for the Minister of Finance to do. We are only supporting them in the concept paper. So it will be done. Ethiopia is a very good example, and we are looking at all the other models, Israel and the others. Like I said earlier, the diaspora, when you talk about investment potential, it's an area we need to take seriously, and we are doing just that. But the minister can update on how far they have gone as far as issuing of the diaspora bond is concerned.
Okay. One more question here. Michael, to the front. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Peter. I run China-UK Venture Capital Association. I'm based in London. My company was listed in Hong Kong. A couple of years ago, we raised $300 million US. So we invested 80 companies worldwide, except Africa. I went to Accra in 2019, was going to start, but affected by COVID. And so I'm glad to see the opportunity again. I watched the president mention John Dredge last night. I think it's a very good practice leader. So my question to you is, we have a lot of cash reserve right now, and lots of our investment go to IPO again. So some money come back. Now we want to go to Ghana, where to start? And we don't want to start a project. We want to invest many projects. So it's more kind of equity investment. Thank you.
The cash reserve, want to invest into projects.
The government of Ghana, under His Excellency the President, decided to use the first 2 years to stabilize the economy, 2025, 2026, create the fiscal space needed for development. That has successfully been done. Today, we've been able to create some significant fiscal space in excess of about 15-16% of GDP, fiscal space that we can put it into proper development. What we seek to do now is to gradually invest in areas that can grow the economy and can also repay those investments going into the future. We've put together a framework of investment, and what we are going to do is to announce in the 2027 budget what the President calls the new economy. Now, the new economy will identify key areas in commercial agriculture, in critical mining value addition, in energy sector, gas to power, gas to fertilizer, and also in key transport infrastructure, Western Rail, and others. That will be announced. The project will be announced as part of the 2027 budget, and we will attract financing going into those investments. But we are yet to finalize the blueprint, and when it's done, His Excellency the President will announce same, and then I will engage investors to attract financing for that project. So be assured that we have the blueprint in place. We want to attract the kind of UK export finance. We want to attract the kind of hedge funds and businesses that you have so that we can get the financing to develop the country. The potential is there, but we will invest in self-financing investment. In fact, what we are again doing is to introduce what we call the Loans Act. So we will actually introduce a legislation that will guide borrowings. So you borrow commercial for self-financing investment, and you can only borrow concessional for only social infrastructure. So any Minister of Finance will be guided by the Loans Act in determining the kind of loan that you can use. You can't borrow to buy a car, for example, because when the time comes for you to repay, you can't sell that car to fund that expenditure.
Yes.
And so these are some of the reforms that we are introducing to make sure that when we borrow, we can fund, we can repay those facilities, but that will be done. Governor, cash reserves.
On the cash reserves, that has to do with banks. I did not quite get your difficulty on that. Could you?
I mean, we have lots of cash in the bank account. We want to invest.
They have cash.
Yeah.
They have cash ready to come and invest into
Yes.
into Ghana.
So you are welcome to come and invest.
So big boss, they will speak to you offline and give you some ideas around what to come and invest. But rest assured, there's plenty to be invested in Ghana. So they will talk to you offline about that.
Yes, we can do a bilateral on that.
Yes. So let me take one more question. Where is it? Okay, here, and then the lady. and then we'll
Thank you, Mr. President and the members of the House. My name is Nanaya Ampim Dakun Ochire. I've been in the marketing and PR and business engagement space for over 15 years. And there is something I observe in the Ghanaian tax and exemption system, which I want to mention. Usually when you render service to, in fact, I would like to first ask if Ghana is getting as much as we have to get from these foreign investors. I'm asking this because when you render service to these foreign businesses in Ghana that are running multi-billion-dollar businesses, and then you issue VAT invoice to them. They tell you they are VAT exempt, they are tax exempt, and they don't pay tax. By history, these are companies that have existed in the country for over 15, 20, 25 years. And if you ask for certificate, they will have certificate of exemption to show you that indeed they are exempt. What I have seen is that we see GRA, Ghana Revenue Authority, chasing after young entrepreneurs who have borrowed as low as 5,000 Ghana cedis, starting businesses, seizing their equipment because they are not paying what they're supposed to pay, leaving these foreign investors who are operating in multi-billion-dollar businesses in Ghana. I would like to understand our tax and exemption system in Ghana. How long is a foreign company being exempted from tax in Ghana? Thank you.
Yes. This is my question, I'm sure.
Yes.
So, I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I'm allergic to tax exemptions. And, I don't believe that businesses only comes to your country through tax exemption. There should be a reason why businesses will invest in your economy. Profitability. And if it adds up, they will come. Tax exemption happens to be the last reason why businesses comes to a country. And there are various reports from IMF, World Bank, and other, or even OECD, that point to that. I want to say that now we have an exemption act in place, and we are not actually granted exemptions as we used to, and it has been abused in the past. So that is being done. I'm working with the Ghana Revenue Authority to streamline that going into the future. But let me conclude by saying that Ghana is undergoing some significant reforms, and these reforms are here to stay. We are lucky to have a president who is very much involved in the day-to-day running of the country. He's very involved, not just at the seat of government, but finding out from each minister what you are doing. He's on top of his game. And so if you have a president like that, you really have to sit up and do your work. Because sometimes, if you are not careful, he's more informed than you, you the minister, implementing policy. So we can see that things are happening. And for me, as Minister of Finance, the president is involved in the decision-making, in guiding you, and in correcting you, and making sure that the right decisions are implemented to reflect what he stands for, the reset agenda to make Ghana a better place. So all of your concerns will be addressed, and we'll do what is right.
Perfect. And your closing remarks?
Well, just to thank you for the opportunity. For us at the Central Bank, we are working together with the Minister of Finance to ensure that we maintain a low and stable inflation environment, an environment that, you know, every investor, not just the foreign direct investor, finds appropriate to operate in. And if there's any way, any of you, if you have any issues with any of the banks, just write me a letter. Just write a simple letter. There's a whole outfit that will move in to try and understand what the issue is, and then we get it resolved. So we are there to serve you. Thank you very much.
Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say the opportunities are definitely in Ghana. It is there to be seen. And I just want to give you a simple message that tells you the opportunity is there. There used to be a gentleman who would go from Ghana to Nigeria on his motorbike with 2 black bags. And every time those black bags contain sawdust. And every time he goes from Ghana to Nigeria and he gets to the border, and they'll ask him the question, what do you come in here for? And what do you have in the bag? And he'll say sawdust. He goes back and forth 5 days. Every time the same thing, motorbike, 2 black bags, sawdust. At the 5th day, the customs officer asked him, young man, you cannot be coming here, Ghana to Nigeria every day with a motorbike and sawdust and a black bag. What are you actually smuggling to the country? And what he said was motorbikes. So remember, look for the motorbike and not for the sawdust. The opportunities are there. So with that, thank you to all of you. Thank you. Thank you, boss. Thank you. Thank you. Well done. Thank you.